Good morning, everybody. This is Van Hargis with Van Hargis Horsemanship, and thank you for joining me on the Ranch Road. Today I'm going to ask just a real simple question. What is that one maneuver or that one thing that you wished you could accomplish with your horse the most? Or what is that one thing that kind of keeps getting in the way? And I'll give you a little help with that, because the two things I think I get asked about the most are getting the horse stopped. In other words, stopping your horse. And then the second one comes up a lot is lead changes. People just can't seem to get flying lead changes. And, if you followed kind of some of the posts this week, we've talked a lot about the fundamentals. We've talked about keeping things simple. We've talked about the basics. And that every maneuver that we do is an extension of just the absolute basic maneuvers. So in other words, what I refer to as the absolute basic criteria, the ABCs of horsemanship. And frankly, there's really nothing that we do that's complex. Everything that we do, let's say, for example, flying lead changes, is nothing more than a combination of little simple basic steps. And I'm going to give you just an idea of what we teach our horses almost from day one. Number one, the first thing we're always concerned about, more than anything else, is always forward motion. And if you just focus on forward motion and getting forward motion correctly, then everything else that you're going to ask this horse to do, such as the two things we just mentioned, stops and flying lead changes, happens so much better, because you can't do big stops if you don't have good forward motion. You can't do flying lead changes if you don't have forward motion. So first and foremost, I want to encourage everybody to work on the forward motion thing. The other thing of the flying lead changes is you can't do flying lead changes if you don't have really, really good simple lead changes, or even better still, lead departures. So until you've got lead departures down pat, where you've got them to where you and your horse get them correct, you get them accurately every time, then you're nowhere near ready to try flying lead changes. What we tend to do with our babies, our colts, is before we ever ride them, we begin to work a lot on the control of their hips. In other words, keeping the front end still, get the horse to understand that they don't need to move any body part unless we ask them to move a particular body part. And we begin to move a lot on, or work a lot on, the horse moving their hips. And then once the horse kind of masters that hip movement in the slightest of communication, then we know now that at least now the horse understands to move away from pressure and to move those hips to an open door. In other words, the path of least resistance. Move those hips that direction. We also, once we get on the horse, another thing that's real important, we never want the horse to associate leg pressure with speed. So here's how we test that. Once we kind of get the horse where they understand moving off of pressure to yield the hips, then we get in the saddle, we put a leg on. Let's say we put our left leg on, asking the horse to move their hips from left to right. All I want the horse to do is just move their hips. And here's how we're going to give that horse a little bitty test. We're going to sit in the saddle totally relaxed. We're going to drop the reins to where they are very soft and relaxed. In other words, no pressure on the horse whatsoever to prevent them from going forward. And at this stage of the game, the horse is just standing there, hopefully quiet, maybe even resting from some previous work. But then we're going to ask the horse just to move his hips from left to right on that loose rein and with our body in a totally relaxed position. More times than not, a young colt will try to take a step forward. So once we apply the leg pressure, the horse may think that the leg pressure means go forward. So what we do, keep in mind how horses learn is through the release of pressure, right? So if we know that, we believe that, we fully understand that, and we're convinced of that, then that means that you cannot release pressure until the horse gives you the correct answer. So we apply the left leg, the horse tries to take a step forward, we're going to leave the left leg on, pick our reins up at this stage and stop the horse, but leave the left leg on, and then hopefully the little bell will ring off in the horse's head that says, oh yeah, move away from that leg. And the minute the horse moves away from the leg, we release both cues. In other words, our hands and our leg. And you can almost see in those babies, you can almost see that little aha moment where they go, oh, okay, so the leg pressure doesn't mean I have to move. And then we come back and we do it again. And we again really totally relax the reins, sit in a very relaxed posture, and we apply the left leg only. And more times than not, that colt will move his hips from left to right, just that one step. When he does, we're going to release that leg pressure and rub that colt like he just won the world championship. You see, that's what I mean by breaking things down to its simplest form. I don't ever want a young horse thinking that a flying lead change or lead change in general is associated with speed. The speed comes from our rhythm in our saddle, comes from our seat, and it is supported by our feet. But it's never meant to be associated with a lead change. So when we add a leg cue by itself doesn't mean speed. So we want to break that down so the horse can easily over time differentiate between the leg pressure for speed and the leg pressure just to move to an open door. In other words, move away from the leg and move their hips laterally. Anyway, that's just one way of how we try to break things down on what some might refer or think of as a more complex maneuver. But it all starts with just the absolute basic, simple things, and then we just keep progressing from there. Remember the analogy about adding the little pieces of the puzzle as we go. So that's the simplest thing for the horse, that's the simplest thing for us, and I encourage you guys to keep it simple for both you and your horse's sake, even on those more complex maneuvers. So again, thank you guys for joining me on the Ranch Road, and until next time, this is Van Hargis with Van Hargis Horsemanship.